your colleagues, other colleagues, had to say about your plan?
I've been really surprised by the bipartisan support that we've seen. As you noted, the acting chair, some of my colleagues have spoken about it. Lawmakers across the political aisle have given favorable responses to it. And to your point, most consumers don't know that right now they pay this 30% fee, or it operates like a tax, right on their monthly bill for telephone service, whether it's wireless or wireline. That number used to be 5 or 6%, and it has recently getting stuck in a death spiral where we're over 30% now, this fee or charge ending up on consumers' monthly bills. And so I put forward an idea that would eliminate that from your monthly bill and put big tech to the task of paying a fair share for this internet infrastructure they benefit from to the tune of trillions of dollars.
Well, and to be fair, consumers benefit from the infrastructure as well, and they're getting a lot of these internet services for free. For example, they use Facebook for free. So in your plan, how much of this tax should consumers bear versus big tech companies? Do you think big tech companies should pay the lion's share of this?
Yeah, of course. I think right now it's 100% borne by consumers and 0%, as far as I can tell, paid into by big tech. And I think that we should flip that around, and the lion's share should be paid for by the businesses that benefit. If there's a small portion that continues under the old system, I'm not opposed to that, but we need to make this fundamental shift going forward. The reality is this is consistent with past precedent. Historically, communications networks in this country were paid for in the main by the businesses that benefited. Now, it used to be 1-800 numbers, fax lines, long distances. It was those businesses that benefited from the network. They paid the majority, that drove down the cost for consumers. But as big tech has arisen, we failed to update our approach so that these new businesses that are benefiting so much from these high-speed networks are paying a fair share towards those networks.
What's the response you've gotten so far from big tech? Have you heard from them?
Well, yeah, big tech has not given a bear hug to this idea. I think they put out a statement, one of the trade associations, saying that we shouldn't punish innovative companies. And frankly, I don't obviously view this as a punishment to ask these large corporations to live up to the same measures that everyday consumers pay for when they pay in. You look at this COVID-19 pandemic, a black swan event for internet traffic. European regulators asked Netflix and other streaming providers to degrade the quality of their service because they were taking up so much bandwidth. We didn't have to do that in the US because our networks were robust, they were resilient, and big tech benefited a lot as consumers' lives shifted onto the internet. But one reason why our networks performed is we have these high levels of investments. But that funding mechanism, the Universal Service Fund that we've relied on to fund it, is now antiquated, and it cannot support the weight of the additional investments that we need to really get the job done from a digital divide perspective, not just on the infrastructure side, but also supporting services for low-income Americans.
Now, speaking of improving internet speed, SpaceX has gotten permission from the FCC for lower orbits of its Starlink satellites. I believe this was a unanimous decision from all of the commissioners, saying that this would improve speed and improve performance, despite opposition from Amazon, which of course has its own satellites but has yet to launch any of them. What is the significance of this? What does this actually mean?
Well, we're used to competitors or potential competitors coming to the FCC with different requests. Starlink is one that we're pretty optimistic about, along with a bunch of other potential low Earth orbit satellites, including the Amazon one. So when you look at the cost of covering that last 1 to 2% of the country, that is going to be the hardest to serve with traditional terrestrial-based services, these low Earth orbit satellites, whether it's SpaceX or Amazon, can get that job done for pennies on the dollar for what it would take from other technologies. So we want to give them a fair shot at competing and of making this work. And hopefully our relief that we provided recently to SpaceX helps them to continue to accelerate their build.
And what are you expecting to see from Amazon? And will that be a significant contribution to closing that gap that you mentioned?
Yeah, it's not going to be a solution for every part of the country today that's unserved. But again, that costly is 1 to 2 to 3% of the country. That's where I think we can make significant progress and taxpayers can see a real benefit. Because again, going back to universal service, the billions of dollars it would cost to bring terrestrial service there, we can potentially see with low Earth orbit satellites. So I hope SpaceX and Amazon and other low Earth orbit satellites do succeed in this space.
Last quick question, Commissioner. This $2.3 trillion infrastructure bill includes $100 billion to invest in digital infrastructure. 30 seconds. How do you want that money to be spent?
Well, first and foremost, it has to be unserved areas. there's some proposals out there right now that would spend billions of dollars upgrading areas that already have high-speed service to make sure they have future-proof networks, so to speak. I think that's a mistake. We need to very narrowly identify the truly unserved that have 0 megabits, and let's get them up to speed right now.